today. I was so glad that you be with you on today. I'm glad to be here with my co-host Angelia, and we've had some beautiful topics, and I know we've had some comments and some questions that came in after the last program. We've been talking about maximizing your singleness, and some of the things we have talked about also include, well, if I'm maximizing who I am, right?
Yes, correct.
And I'm getting where I want to be, but I'm also cognizant that I may want to be looking outwardly as well, because I don't want to make the same mistakes I made before, so I don't fall back into that same dilemma.
Yes.
And so we want to kind of talk about that a little bit today as well. So I'm going to let my co-host just start out by throwing some things out, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, thank you. How are you, first of all?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a busy day, but it's been a productive day, and so I'm just glad to still be here in the land of the living.
I know, me too. Okay, well, basically, I have some notes here that I have typed up. I don't want to forget anything. So I have not yet identified my Boaz. I don't have him. So Dr. Daniels can really go into a bit more detail on that. But what I will say, I have 3 points that I have written down, and as we go through them, I'm gonna just kind of ask you to elaborate a little bit more, if you will.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So I think someone wanted to know from our, from previous correspondence. Well, how do you know he is a Boaz, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
If you are a gentleman, how do you know she's a Ruth? And that's two things. Those are great questions. So if you are, let's say you are the woman, and we talked about you developing your own, self last week. We talked about how the characters that Ruth had that a woman should want to aspire to be like. You may not be perfect. But certainly, we talked about the loyalty issue.
Yes.
We talked about that compassion issue, right? And we talked about that the willingness to accept God as being the center of our life. And so, but once you get there, and then every man, let me say this, if a woman exhibits those qualities, we know the men are going to come looking. When they see that in a woman, they're going to start competing. So then the question will be, well, now that, not that you're putting yourself out as prey, but men will start to look at you differently because they're going to be trying to find that kind of woman.
That's true.
So then how do you pick and choose and say, well, this person seems like the right one, that person seems like the right one. And I think the starting point has to be to look at the person where we talked about Ruth starting with loyalty going down to putting God first. With the man, it has to be the opposite.
Okay.
Right? It's the opposite approach. The first thing you have to look at is God first in his life, right?
Okay.
Because that's what you want from that man,
Most
right?
definitely.
Is God first, and not is he a churchgoer. Let me say that right there, because I want the women to understand this. It is not is he a churchgoer. It is not is he on the deacon board. It is not does he sing in the choir. It's does he put God first?
Yes.
Because you can be a churchgoer and not put God first, right? And so that's the central thing. And you do that by not looking at what they tell you. As I think it was I can't think of the poet's name. But who said
in the Bible?
Anyway. Forgive me,
it's
I'm
okay.
getting older now.
It'll come to you as we go along.
But what she said was, when a person tells you who they are, believe them.
Was it Maya?
There you go, Maya Angelou.
Okay.
When a person shows you who they are, believe them.
That's true.
And I think that's the key. Women oftentimes don't do that.
We do not.
Right?
We don't.
So he's not showing you a man of God, but you don't believe that because he goes to church.
Exactly.
See, he goes to church, and you say, well, I really think he's the man of God. But that's not what he's really showing you. He's showing you that the street is still the center of him.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Most definitely.
So,
I've seen it.
So that's the thing I think we have to look for first and foremost is he truly a man of God? Women tend to look for a man with potential. Okay?
Yes, we do.
Now, let me say this to all the ladies out there That's the worst thing you can do if the man is over 30. Okay? A teenager, you look for potential.
Correct.
Right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
25, you look for potential. Over 30, you don't look for potential.
Mm-hmm.
He should already have demonstrated that he is where he should be at that point.
So it's safe to say he should be walking in purpose already, have identified his purpose. That was one of my points. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. Because now we all can be late bloomers, right?
Correct.
Everyone doesn't mature at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
However, if I'm walking in God, I will have maturity. See, that's the thing.
True.
See, if I'm walking in God, God would have shown me
Mm-hmm.
that which will allow me to realize my potential.
Yes.
And so you won't see me as someone who has great potential.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see me as someone who's realizing my potential.
Okay.
And that's a huge difference. Now, I may not be where I should be.
Mm-hmm.
For example, and I'm going to use a biblical reference to
Okay.
demonstrate this. Joshua may not have gotten to the promised land
Mm-hmm.
yet, but they knew he was on his way there.
That's correct.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you may say, well, okay, he may not be there yet,
Mhm.
but I can see that he's going.
He was in action.
He's in action.
Okay.
I'm not the one motivating him to get there.
Exactly. We're
I'm
not
not-
developing one another.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
That he's the one on the way there, and I'm just going to get on board and go with him to get
Okay,
there,
okay.
as opposed to me pushing him to get there.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So I think that's the primary thing, is that he's demonstrated to you that his maturity, that God is the center,
Mhm.
and not he has great potential.
Okay. He's bearing fruit. He can show you that God is the center by his actions, his ways, and things of that nature.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's got to be key, because really, and I love my brothers, and I'm trying to put my brothers down, but here's what we know. There are brothers that come to church to find a woman.
Oh, and women do the same thing.
Right, I know.
Mhm.
See, but that's the thing that women they don't think about.
Uh-huh.
Just like they come to find a man,
Mhm.
men come to find a woman,
Mhm.
a woman.
Mhm.
Well, some come to find women.
More than one. Okay.
Well, here's the thing. Now, again, and I'm not saying this is a truism.
Mhm.
I'm just telling you how a lot of men have approached it.
Yes.
There is a thought process
Mhm.
that the best place to get a woman is in a church.
That's true.
Now, here's why why streetwise guys think that way.
Okay.
They know in the club those women are streetwise, right?
They know what's up.
They
What's
they
up.
know. See, a woman in the club no game.
Mm-hmm.
Their thought process is a woman in the church doesn't know game.
So that's what they think.
That's what their thought process is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're thinking that a woman in church doesn't know game.
Mhm.
So if I'm in the church, I can easily get somebody.
But maybe she came from the club to the church and she's cleaned herself up a bit, so she
Right.
can still recognize game.
Well, that's my point. Is
Yeah.
here's the thing though.
Mm-hmm.
Most women, even though they knew game,
Mm-hmm.
they'll come to church and act like the guy in the church ain't running game.
That's true. You are so
See,
right.
so
Mhm.
they'll put blinders on,
Yes.
and they'll say, "Well, I know Deacon Jefferson ain't running game. He's a deacon in the church, but no deacon running game. I mean, not all deacons. But I'm saying deacon could still be running game.
Most definitely.
So you're never going by the talk, as I guess is my point, because anyone can run game with their mouth. You're going by the walk. How is he producing? What is his actions like in church?
Okay.
And not just in church.
Mm-hmm.
How is he? If he's single, what is he doing with his spare time that shows he's putting God first and God's getting glory out of his life?
All right.
Is he mentoring any young kids?
Okay.
Is he helping develop a neighborhood? What is he doing?
Operating in his ministry outside of the church.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because if I'm
point.
following God, then it's more than just me coming singing on the choir.
Okay.
It's a lifestyle. And I guess that's the thing.
Most definitely.
Consider Boaz. For Boaz, it was a lifestyle.
Mhm.
It was not just a one-day event.
Okay, you hear that, ladies, gentlemen as well. It's a lifestyle, so
Absolutely.
it's not just going to church on Sundays or not. Okay,
Yeah.
those are really good points. I like
Yeah.
that.
And that's what we have to look at. And the same, so that's the first thing, right?
Yes.
Then we also say, well, the next thing is compassion, right?
Okay.
So we're taking it in the reverse order
Mhm.
to find a Boaz. right? Because compassion is the ability for me to feel and understand pain.
Yes,
Right?
definitely.
To feel and understand pain. So that means you want the kind of man that can feel the hurt that you have.
Okay.
Right? Because even though you have healed, it's just like any injury will still leave a scar.
It will.
Right? And so there's still going to be a scar there from the healing.
Okay.
You want a man that be able to that can see the scar, and just from seeing the scar, he can have compassion for the pain you went through.
Okay.
Right.
And not pick at it.
There you go. Not pull the scab off and get more pain from it. You know, not question the scar.
Okay.
But be the one that can really see the scar and then see you. And that's so vitally important. Because if he can see the scar and see you, then he will feel that. And so therefore, anytime an action occurs that causes you more pain, he will understand why you're striking out.
Okay. That you've been triggered by something that has happened.
Right.
Okay.
It is not an anger. It is not a. He won't take it personal.
Okay.
He will look at it and say, well, you know what? I need to now do something to provide assistance.
Okay.
Even though you're the one that's, I'm not saying you.
I got you.
You could be the one cursing him out.
Okay.
But rather than him getting angry, he will do the opposite.
He'll understand.
He'll understand.
See past that you're really saying something else.
That really your anger is not directed at him. Your anger is hurt. Is that you're in pain right now.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean he did something to hurt you. All it means is something could have happened to position you so your mind went back.
Yes, most definitely.
And it uncovered some things that you had hoped you had put down.
Yes.
But sometimes it'll come back.
It
So
does.
if he has that compassion, right, then he can make that happen.
Okay.
You know, and that changes things.
It does. It really does.
You know.
I completely understand where you're coming from. I've been triggered before, and that's all a part of healing and recognizing that what happened, what someone said, or what was done, whatever the case may be, you have to recognize that I was triggered just now and be able to process that yourself as well, and be able to explain that to someone that may not understand. So that's why healing is very important, first and foremost.
Right. Now, before we go to the third one, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
And I say that because I'm always intrigued by women, their comments about men.
Okay.
And I'm intrigued because it's been my counseling experience that women tend to go after the same types of men over and over and over again. Right.
We do.
So my question to you would be then, is that from a woman's point of view, how do you fight that urge to gravitate to the same kind of guy that has potential, or to the same? How do you loose the grip so you can move forward? I can say it, but only you really know the ins and outs of how to make it happen.
As a woman, for myself, I recognized that after a while that I was going for the same type of man, different face, and that's because I hadn't healed. So we were kind of gravitating towards one another. But after a while, you're tired of making those same mistakes time and time again. You begin to recognize this is the same person with a different face. And in order to avoid that drama, you have to take your time really, and in that I wouldn't even say, don't even enter the relationship. You got to take your time and talk to a person, get to know them just enough to know if once you've healed, you'll begin to recognize red flags in other people. It does not take long, 2 or 3 weeks, if that, because typically I've been in that situation, and once someone is starting to talk to you about their past and reveal certain things, their body language will come across as very aggressive, or you'll just know, or maybe they've shut down, they don't want to discuss certain things. Those are things to look out for. So you can't help what you like as far as preference goes and what you see physically, but in order to avoid that same type of person, you really just have to take your time. And I say, for me, what I've learned to do here recently is just pray and ask God to reveal, show me.
Mm-hmm.
Dating is for purpose for me now. It's not for fun. So I ask God to show me, is this the person you have for me? And some people say, well, why don't you just date and have a good time?
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm trying to do. That's not my goal.
Right.
I'll have a good time once God shows me that's who it is. And then,
Right.
We'll move forward in purpose together. But God, He will reveal it if you just take your time. And women, I'm gonna be honest, you got to stay out of the bed. Really, you got to stay out of the bed.
That's right.
You got to get rid of stop looking at the physical, the lust, and all. You got to get rid of all that, and you got to see past it. Once you see past that, and you start to see the person, you can make a conscious decision as to whether or not this is someone you want to move forward with. Are you willing to help unpack whatever they're dealing with? But once again, they have to be holding themselves accountable for their issues as well, and show you the fruit of them working on their issues.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I say let God, bottom line, let God show you who they are.
Right.
Because once you get tired of making those same decisions over and over and over again, you're going to stop looking at the physical. Of course, you want to be attracted to this person.
Sure.
But also, you're going to see them. You're going to talk to them and look at the character of the person.
Well, what you say makes sense. My mother always taught me that if you see the beauty inside, then the beauty outside will become much clearer. It
definitely will. Most definitely.
And so maybe we should look for the inside first as opposed to the outside. Now, the last thing that we, talk again in that reverse order, the last thing is the loyalty issue, right? So we see the Boaz got to be that man of God, right? He's got to have that compassion. But the loyalty thing. Now, here's the thing that I don't understand, that I need help.
Okay.
Right? is women tend to not want to talk to the man about past relationships, And I'm just curious about that, because to me that would be the place to go, is to find out, just like any other thing, why did your last relationship end? What happened in that relationship? And try to find out honestly, was he loyal in the past?
Exactly.
And why is he here with you now?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because let's face it. I mean, I'm no spring chicken. I mean, you're still young.
I just turned 50.
So you're still spring. I'm fall. Okay, so you're spring. I'm fall.
I might be aging up on you a bit.
I'm in the fall right now.
Okay.
So if you meet a guy, late 40s, 50s, chances are this is not his first rodeo.
Of course not.
Right? So the question I would always be wondering is, women don't tend to, at least it's been my counseling experience, right? Women don't tend to try to figure out, why is he still single?
I do.
It's almost like they're like, wow, this is a great guy. He's got a job, he's got a nice car, and he's single, as opposed to,
wow,
wait a minute, why is he single if he's so great? Because if he's great, why is he single?
Well, I'll tell you, I might not be the one to ask that question, because I have a nickname of Curious George. I tend to ask too many questions. So, because I want to know, just like I'm divorced, this is not, like you said, I just turned 50 last week. So this is I guess you could say I've been around the block a couple times at this point. So I've had men to ask me, why am I still single? So now I can say that I hadn't met the right person, or I had some work to do. So, and with men, normally, like you said, 40s, 50, then of course, in my mind, I'm automatically thinking they've been married before. What happened? I want to know what happened exactly. And if they're kind of distant and give me that, well, I really don't like bringing up past relationships and things like that. It's not about bringing up past relationships, but it's about holding yourself accountable and knowing that they can discuss these things in a healthy way, and they have done some self-reflection, and they can tell you, well, I've gone through this and that, and they can tell you I was at fault here, but someone that's always pointing the finger at the other person, there's a problem, or they just completely shut down or not talking at all. I made that mistake early on when I got married. thinking that, no shots, towards my ex-husband, but just thinking, oh, he's so quiet and he just sits and he just listens to me talk all the time. Well, then I realized some things later on. There's a lot to you just really have to pay attention to these things, all signs, not just, oh, he's single and he's available, his kids are grown. You gotta really dig deep.
I agree, and I want all the ladies to understand that when you're looking for that Boaz, let me tell you that's something you always have to ask yourself. If he's single, and again, I'm not trying to disrespect my brothers. I love you. Listen, and we got some great brothers out there. But all I'm saying is this: if a house is empty, my question always is why?
Yes.
If it's such a great home, why hasn't someone bought it yet? It's been on the market for 5 years. Why didn't someone buy the house? Right? I'm just saying, if a man is single, you should always walk in assuming something. It may not be a loyalty issue, but you should assume there's somehow he's broken too.
Exactly.
He's broken too.
And
oftentimes, not all the time, but sometimes loyalty is the problem, right? I mean, let's just be honest. Men tend to step out more than women, right? So sometimes that doesn't mean women don't step out, but they do too. But sometimes that is the problem. So we have to kind of look at that and say, well, hey, you know what? Is that what the problem was? Is that it? Because that doesn't mean he can't change.
Of course.
But here's what I would say to a woman. If a man comes out right away and says, hey, listen, my marriage broke up because I cheated. That's the honesty you can deal with.
Most definitely.
Right, that you can say, well, okay, you know what? That doesn't mean once a cheater, always a cheater. Because the person was honest with you, and you can take that, and you can kind of, move on with that and say, well, okay, now we can at least have dialogue now, because we both have put some things on the table. So again, I guess we said we're going to talk about Ruth and Boaz. We kind of stayed on Boaz. But that's a good thing. And so we know then if a lady is looking for a Boaz, and we know that for men who are trying to become a Boaz, right? That the first thing is what? My commitment to God has been the center and being first in my life. Correct. That compassion that I can show to others around me, and the fact that I can truly be loyal to this person, and if those qualities are there, you won't worry about the outside so much.
True. Because
the inside will overpower the outside.
That's true.
And listen, I tell you, I can't believe how fast this time goes.
It really does.
We are at the end of our show for the day, but I'm going to not have the last word today. I'm going to send the last word to my co-host.
Thank you. And I do want to say quickly, to recognize your Ruth or Boaz, definitely ask God to show you. You can't go wrong if you ask God to reveal that person to you. If you read Genesis 24 in the Bible, the servant, Abraham sent his servant to look for Ruth her name was Rebecca, for Isaac. And he chose her. So let God do the same for you. That's what I will say. And thank you guys. We appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free. And we will see you again next week.
All right. God bless you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.